Investment advisory services offered through SWAN-Capital Management, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisor. SWAN-Capital Management, LLC, and SWAN-Capital are independent entities.
What your money would say. Andrew McNair. Money Talks. Are you listening? Money Talks. Are you listening? Money Talks. Are you listening? What your money would say with Andrew McNair.
We're live here on What Your Money Would Say. I'm your host, Andrew McNair, and for the next 30 minutes every Saturday from 12:30 to 1 o'clock here on WCOA 1370, I will be your retirement resource. My goal, my passion is to pull back the onion on retirement planning and pull back the curtain and the mysteries that surround estate planning. And I'm excited about today's theme. We're going to talk about aging parents. And we talked a few weeks about aging parents a few weeks back, and we had Homestead Village come in and share with us the side about assisted living. Well, this week we're going to talk about home health care and having services in the home for your aging parents. But before we do that, I want to share with you some upcoming events we have at SWAN-Capital. The first one is our Social Security Benefits Class 101. And we have two classes coming up at UWF in October and November. The dates are on our website at swan-capital.com. And you can check under the upcoming events tab to check out those dates and RSVP. The tuition, I think, is about $35, so you don't want to miss it. Also, we have our Veterans Benefits Workshops. I think we have 2 left for this month, and we have a few scheduled for next month already. Don't want to miss that, how you can learn how to receive up to $24,000 from the VA to help pay for assisted living or home health care expenses. And while you're there, sign up for our weekly newsletter so you can get straightforward updates on the market. As well, sign up for our Twitter account, start following us there, and like our Facebook page. But today's theme is sunk really hard on my heart because I did a workshop out in Fairhope recently, and I had an attendee come to me. And this isn't rare. They always come with me, and they share with me some of their personal stories. And we were talking about veterans benefits, and it was very bittersweet when he came up to me. He said, Andrew, I'm really excited about the veterans benefits that my parents are eligible for, but I wish I would have heard about these 2 years sooner. Because he said, let me share with you, my life has been on hold for 2 years. I had a great full-time paying job, and I had to push it back to part-time. And not because I wanted to, because I had to. Because when my parents got sick, they needed someone there full-time. And they had about roughly $350,000, but they're spending it down so fast, paying for sitters and paying for services to take care of them. I had to step in and go to part-time to take care of them. And he's not alone, unfortunately. I wish, his situation was unique. It's not. I have families coming to me all the time, what I call the sandwich generation. They're trying to take care of their kids' college education, but then they get sandwiched and try to balance their parents' care needs because they're elder and they're getting up into their age where they need some care at home. So what do you do when you get to that stage in life? What I share with families is that only happens to you once in a lifetime. And a lot of the things you're going to hear today probably maybe be the first time you ever hear them. But for us, we help people retire every day. This happens once in a lifetime for you. But we help families guide us through this process. So I'm very excited bringing on an expert, Carlette Howe from Homestead Senior Care. And she's going to share with us over a decade of experience and expertise she's built dealing with seniors in their homes and providing the services they need. Carlette, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
The first thing I want to get everyone on board is, what does Homestead Senior Care do for families?
Well, what we do is we go into the home mainly. We do sit at hospitals or assisted living facilities, but most of it is going into the home, just helping them with their daily routines. A lot of times when you get older, you can't stand for a long time in order to prepare a nutritious meal. So a lot of our caregivers go in and cook, clean, take people to the doctor, just whatever their needs are is what we try to do on a daily basis.
Now, home health services. Again, most families think it has to be in the home. I have to have someone come and help my mom or dad at home. But you're saying they can help them at assisted livings as well, or in other places.
Right. Like in the hospital, a lot of times when somebody's been in the hospital for a long time, and the family, the children, they're still working, and they stay there overnight with them, and they just get worn out. So they'll call us and they'll say, okay, we need somebody to stay at the hospital with my mother until, because we've just got to get some rest. Same thing in assisted living. One thing that we've been doing a lot lately is helping people move into assisted living. So
that's a big transition.
Oh, it is. Yes, absolutely. They're usually downsizing, but once they get in there, there again, the adult children have been so busy helping them get along that finally they say, we just got to have some help.
And it's a dark joke, I hear it all the time, is that the caregiver usually goes first. And because the caregiver's the one that's providing all the care, picking up when mom or dad falls, and they're pulling their back out, they're having to have surgery now they're needing a caregiver. And what I'm sharing with you is it doesn't have to be that way. There are services and organizations that help you and your aging parents deal with this transition in life. And there's also services that we're going to talk about that help pay for some of this cost. So you want to stay tuned as we have Carlette Howe from Home Instead Senior Care talk about aging parents. Now, when someone's searching for home health care services, when they're doing their due diligence, what should they be looking for?
Well, you want somebody that's been around for a long time because you need that credibility. And
they've probably seen it all
yeah,
over some time.
Absolutely. We've been here in the Pensacola area for 13 years.
Wow.
And we've grown every year, so we must be doing something right.
That's fantastic.
But you've got to look, the credibility. We train our caregivers. They go through 2 days of training. We don't just throw them out there. They all are qualified as home health aides. And we have to do FBI background check on them. We do a vehicle background check on them. We also do a Social Security trace, and we do drug testing. So we do.
Wow! So you just don't let some stranger going into one of your clients' houses.
Right. And so we do a lot more than what the state actually requires, but it gives us peace of mind, and we've just learned over the years it's really important to do all those things.
Right. You want to do, and on your side, you want to do the due diligence and making sure you have the right caregiver, so you don't have to, replace them. So
right.
That's why you have really good staff.
And let me say, they are my employees, so they have workers' comp. I have liability insurance. So when they go into your home, if they trip and fall or if they pull their back out, my client is not responsible for that. I am.
And if you're listening out there, there's a lot of families that say, well, I have this lady down the street, and you know this, Carlette, because this is your biggest competition. Now that they're home health care agencies, her biggest competition is the neighbor that doesn't have a job right now and will work for $10 an hour. The problem is working for $10 an hour, there's a reason why you're not paying as much, is because they don't have that liability protection. So if someone comes and slips on your floor and sues you, you could be held liable for that. And it doesn't have to be that way. That's why you use professionals.
Right. And we did. We had a caregiver last year that was at a client's house, and she went out to get the mail and tripped on a crack in the driveway and fell and messed her mouth up and all that. But workers' comp took care of everything. And it was a good chunk of money. I mean, that could have been a really bad situation. But luckily we had workers' comp.
Perfect. Also, I know because the Veteran Benefit Project, my nonprofit, to help pay for these services, that y'all do actually a lot of continuing education that y'all are not required to do too.
Absolutely. We learned right off that, the more training you can do, the more tools that you can give them, the better off you are. It's like with Alzheimer's or dementia. If you have the right tools to deal with that illness, then you can really work better with the client. I remember when I first started this company, I went to family services, and one of the things they told me, they said, just always remember this word, add, and it stands for agree, distract, or delay. And if you use those three words with somebody with dementia, you can usually work around any kind of crisis or any type of upset that they might be going through.
That's great. Carla, if you don't mind, I'll have you repeat that in just a second. If you're just tuning in, we have Carlette here on What Your Money Would Say. She's from Home Instead Senior Care. She's the owner over there, and she has a decade of experience of dealing with aging parents. And you want to write this down. If you're driving, you want to pull over and add this, because if you have a parent that suffers with dementia, you want to have this.
Yeah, just remember the word add, A-D-D, and it stands for agree, distract, or delay. Delay. And if you use those tactics, you can really get around most any situation. Like we had, the spouse had gone out and we were taking care of a client, and the wife had said, do not let him have ice cream. Well, unfortunately, she had ice cream in the freezer because she liked ice cream. But it caused us a problem. So my caregiver was like, oh my gosh, because that's all he could think about was that ice cream. And so she told him, she said, well, I tell you what, why don't we go outside and go for a walk first, and then we'll come back and see, if maybe Mrs. Jones is back, and we'll see if it's all right. And so she got him to go outside.
Forget all about that ice cream.
Yeah. A lot of times, and the families, a lot of times they want to fix them, and you cannot fix somebody with dementia. So a lot of times,
because their health is only going to progress.
Exactly.
So again, if you're out there trying to take care of an elder parent, you need to actually take a look at having a professional coming in and doing that. Now, a lot of times the objection I hear is, Andrew, they can't afford it, or they don't want to relinquish some of their assets to help pay for it. Well, that's where SWAN-Capital and the Veteran Benefit Project come in. We help families earn up to $24,000 a year from the VA if they're a wartime veteran. And what we do is we help educate families and assist them through the application process to become eligible for veteran aid and attendance that can help pay for these services. Because again, a lot of families, they have the money, but they don't want to pay for it, or they don't have the money and they need these benefits to actually pay for their services. So let's jump into the actual services part. Carlette, what services do y'all actually do? I have a lot of families say, well, Andrew, I'm not going to pay, $10+ for someone to come sit there. But y'all do more than that.
Oh, absolutely. We have companionship, which that's just one-on-one, where we help them with their daily routines, help them walk or get their mail, that type of thing. Then we have the homemaking service, which is cleaning, cooking, errands, going to the grocery store, taking them to the doctor, those types of things. Then we have personal care. And in the state of Florida, for you to do personal care, you do have to have your home health license, which I do. So, but we're still considered non-medical. That's just so that we can bathe and help our clients with hygiene.
Okay. Now, Carla, if you'll give families out there an idea how much some of those services cost, because I know it's not a standard price. It's different based on what kind of level of care you need.
Right.
So what are the prices that some families should look for?
Okay. For companionship, it's $15 an hour. Homemaking is $16, and personal care is $20. And we go out and evaluate and see what their needs really are. A lot of times the adult children are there with us, and they tell us what's going on with them. And and their needs may change as they go on. If they get sick, they may need some personal care.
But your caregivers are experienced enough. They've had the background education. See, for $15 an hour, you're getting a lot of things in there. You're getting the liability protection of having a trained professional go in there, sit with your parent, also do a lot of services, including laundry, preparing meals. There's a laundry list of things that they do other than just make sure your parent is taken care of. Now, you might be thinking, you might try to do the math in your head right now, saying, Andrew, if I need 20, 30 hours a week, times that in a month, that's a good bit of money. That could be $1,500, $2,000. How do you afford that? Well, there are VA benefits that help pay for that, anywhere from $1,113 to $2,053 to help take the burden off those families. And that's what SWAN-Capital and the Veteran Benefit Project help families do. Now, if you have a question out there, remember, we're a live show. So you can call in at 850-478-3116. That's 478-3116, and we'll help answer your phone call and answer your question. Now, about these sandwich generation and the greatest generation, we're addressing two audiences here today. Now, I want to speak to, we've been speaking to the kids. Now, if you're out there and you're, 65 plus, a lot of families just assume that their kids will be able to take care of them. And as you've probably experienced, that's not always the case. And as you may have heard in the beginning, I had a gentleman come to me. He said, I was open to helping my parents in the beginning, and I reduced my job from full-time to part-time to take care of them. But it went from, being my parents to being an employer. It went from being something I love to do to help out my parents to being a job. And I know no parent wants to be a burden on their kids. And it doesn't have to be that way. That's why we have Carlette Howe from Home Instead Senior Care to help educate us on how to deal with aging parents. But we're going to take a real quick break, and we'll be right back.
What your money would say. Today's financial landscape can be rough. One of the most important aspects of planning is choosing the right guide to help you navigate the road to retirement. Andrew McNair and the team at SWAN-Capital is dedicated to providing the very best service in the retirement planning industry today. SWAN-Capital is a full-service independent wealth management firm dedicated to providing guaranteed custom income plans that you cannot outlive. Contact Andrew McNair at SWAN-Capital 850-380-9558. That's 850-380-9558. The difference between SWAN-Capital and you retire once. We help people retire every day. You should be enjoying your retirement years, not letting worry keep you up at night. SWAN-Capital. Sleep well at night. Contact Andrew McNair at SWAN-Capital 850-380-9558. That's 850-380-9558. Again, that's 850-380-9558.
The Veteran Benefit Project, founded by Andrew McNair, president of SWAN-Capital, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping veterans and widows of veterans with long-term care expenses by qualifying for the VA's Aid and Attendance Benefit. Learn how to receive over $24,000 per year from the VA towards long-term health care. There is absolutely no fee associated with our assistance to the veteran, the widow of a veteran, their families, or any retirement community. Our goal is to preserve the dignity of the veteran and to reduce the dependency on the Medicaid system. Again, learn how to receive over $24,000 per year from the VA. Contact the Veteran Benefit Project 850-380-5137. That's 850-380-5137. 850-380-5137. Look us up on the web, veteranbenefitproject.com. At the Veteran Benefit Project, we are committed to helping you secure the benefits you deserve.
Retirement expert Andrew McNair. Changing the retirement paradigm. Now back to what your money would say. Brought to you by SWAN-Capital.
Welcome back to What Your Money Would Say. We have Carlette Howe from Home Instead Senior Care, and we're talking about aging parents today. And I shared with you a story about when I did a Veterans Benefits workshop, how we help families get up to $24,000 from the year to help pay for assisted living or home health care. And the man came with me, and he's a part of the sandwich generation, I like to call him, is where, he was trying to deal with his kids' education, trying to save for college, also trying to save for his own retirement. And he's stuck balancing trying to take care of his parents. And this is a road he's never been down before. And no one teaches you how to take care of aging parents. So, again, I tell you, this is the first time and probably the only time you'll deal with elder parents. But at SWAN-Capital and What Your Money Would Say, we help families do that every day. So, lean on our experience because we do it and we can help you go through this transitional process. If you have a question out there, and you may be thinking of a question that everyone else that's listening wants to ask, give us a call at 478-3116. That's 478-3116, and we'll answer your question live on the show. Now, Carlette, a lot of families just don't know how the process goes. So if you will you highlight the process says, if my mom or my dad goes into the hospital and they suffer a fall, what's the process of them leaving and how can that be improved too?
Well, normally what they do is once they leave the hospital, they go to rehab for a couple of weeks. And then they're dismissed and they go home. And they have a home health company that, say, for the first week, they come in like 5 days. Second week, they go 3 days. And mainly what they're doing, they're just going in there long enough to take their vital signs, making sure they're taking their medication, making sure that they're on track with everything. But and then the following week, maybe they'd only go twice, and then they may not come back. It depends on if they're getting better each week, then it decreases. And they also would probably get like a physical therapist, and the same thing.
But you can look at the stats, and it'll be an echoes because you'll say this is such a problem out there. Is that how many readmits we have back in the hospital? A lot of families are getting discharged out of the hospital, and this is what's putting a huge strain on the healthcare system. Is families are rushed out of the hospital, they button them up, and they put them in rehab, and they say, I think they're getting better. We'll take them home, and they come back at home. They don't have the right medication because they didn't stop by the pharmacies because no one drove them. They didn't have the right food. A lot of their food has gone bad, and because their kids are maybe in New York or they're in Arizona, and no one's checking on them to make sure that they're rehabbing like they're supposed to. But it doesn't have to be that way.
No, and we do have a program called Returning Home, and that's exactly what we do, Andrew. We go out and we pick them up. We go and get their medication. We make sure they have food in the house. We make sure their bed is clean, because a lot of times when they went in the hospital, they went in an ambulance or it was a emergency.
Yeah, you don't have time. Oh, the ambulance here, let me fix everything. I just had a fall. Let me fix it and make sure everything's good. No.
So we get all that straightened out. And we have a minimum of 3 hours. So what that means is we'll go all the way up to 24/7. But a lot of people just need us a few hours, maybe a couple of times a week, just to keep on track. Some of them need us every day. Some of them need us 24 hours. So whatever their needs are in order to keep them in order, that's what we do.
Okay. So you're hearing from Carlette Howe from Home Instead Senior Care, who has over a decade of experience, of telling you that, with the readmits so high from going from, rehab and home and then back all the way to the hospital, it doesn't have to be that way. If you have just the typical process for your parents, what will happen is someone will just come out, check that, their medication's doing okay, checking that their pulse is fine, but then they'll leave them, and then they don't have someone staying with them. What Home Instead does is they fill that gap. They have someone going ongoing. Now, that does come at a cost. Now, how do you pay for some of these services, Carla?
Well, there are different programs, and we do have a contract with VA, and Andrew's helped several of my clients even get the benefit package, which has really been nice. But Council on Aging has several programs that they have available through the state, and they have a case manager that'll go over and evaluate the client. Same thing. There's also a new thing that's coming out now is a diversion program, and if you qualify for that, you're allotted so much money a month for somebody to come in.
So you're not stuck alone out there trying to pay for these services. There's a lot of services available, and you don't have to always be impoverished to get these services. A lot of families say, well, Andrew, my family, they're very good stewards. They've saved a lot of money, but they just don't want to relinquish it. They don't want to spend it. Well, a lot of times is if I can help those families get veterans benefits anywhere from $1,113 up to $2,053 a month to help pay for these services, it gives them the permission slip to kind of spend some of their money because they know that they're going to get some of it back from the VA. Now, there's also a lot of misconceptions I hear. They say, Andrew, you're saying that Medicare is not going to pay for these services?
Right. Medicare does not. It will pay for the home health company to come out. It'll take care of that, but it will not. Medicare is not in that formula.
It was never designed to be either. It was never supposed to be a long-term healthcare solution. Medicare takes once you get out of the hospital, starts paying some of the expenses. What's the timeline for families that are using Medicare?
Well, I'm not sure I really
Like the 20 days it's going to pay out?
Oh, yeah. It all depends on how the patient is getting better. It's all based on that. So, and every time the nurse goes over there, she does an evaluation and turns that in. So they have certain criteria that says, okay, now you have to put it down to this length and that length. So that's how it's done.
Okay, fantastic. Because that can be a very complicated system, dealing with Medicare, what are they going to pay, what are they not going to pay, when's it going to turn off, when it doesn't. Again, don't guess when it comes to these expenses in this transitional period for your aging parents. Lean on experts like Carlette, who have the decade of experience of walking families through this period of rehabbing out of the hospital, who have expertise in dealing with elder parents and making sure that they receive just not only care, but receive the customized care that they need for their situation. And I'd like to recap some of the things, because there's some really crucial things that we covered in today's show, is, when you're looking for a home health care agency, what are some of the things you look for? You said experience.
Right.
Is there any other things they should look for besides experience?
Well, it's the credibility of the service or of the agency, and you also want to know what they do when they hire their caregivers. Like all the lists that I gave a while ago about some of the things are state required. The FBI background check is state required. Drug testing, I don't think everybody does that. The motor vehicle, they don't do that. And the Social Security trace.
Which is fantastic, because
Yeah.
that puts kind of that worry that, some stranger's going to come in my house. And that's not the case. Now, if you're out there and you're saying, well, Andrew, here's my issue. I have an aging parent, but they don't want help. They don't want to get rid of their independence. What Carlette does a beautiful job with her company is they wean families off the independence. And it's not a bad thing to, lose some of that independence, because your parents have worked their entire life to get to this point, and they deserve to sleep well at night, not only financially, but physically and emotionally. And if they have someone that's doing some of these services for them, it can really improve their health in all those areas. And how do you approach parents out there? If this was your parent, how do you approach them on getting the care they need?
Well, what we usually tell them, we go, listen, you're not going to lose your independence. Actually, what we're going to do is help you get it back, because we encourage them to do things with our caregivers. We're not, I realize there are some people that we just sit with, but most of our clients, we really try to keep them active.
Which is key, because I love the quote, when you're green, you grow, when you're ripe, you rot. And it's, that's for your whole life. You have to keep being social. And what's nice is if your mom's there alone because you're working, you need someone there that, can talk to her, that can take her for a walk, that prepares her meals, sits down with her at mealtime. People need that. So, again, if you're out there, how can they get a hold of you, Carlette, at Home Instead Senior Care?
Okay, we have a local number, 477-1947, and we are there from Monday through Friday, but we do have an on-call phone that goes 24 hours, and that's mainly an emergency number or line for after hours, but we're on call all the time. But again, 477-1947.
Perfect. So again, in this show, we talked about what you should look for in a home health care agency. We talked about how much these services can cost. You pay for what you get. It can cost anywhere from $15 to up to $19 at least for some of these services, but they're well deserved. And if you're worrying about how to pay for them, that's what the Veteran Benefit Project and SWAN-Capital do. We help you look at the long-term care options and know what your long-term care insurance is going to pay. We also see if you're eligible for any VA benefits. So be sure to check out our website at swan-capital.com to check out any of our upcoming events, and we look forward to seeing you on our next show at What Your Money Would Say. See you next week.